Today we have some stories of some of the craziest truth or dare games ever played. I know for a fact that you'll be shocked by some of these, so sit back, relax, leave a like on the video to claim your free nothing, and let's get to the stories.
And we're crying, crying, crying like a wounded animal.
So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted the first story SpongeBob. Yeah, I'm going on a SpongeBob theme for the subscriber names, so we're going to call him SpongeBob. Anyways, SpongeBob and his friends, they have a big kind of like get together at the mall or whatever. Things are pretty cool. They're having a good time on the weekend, and they all decide that they're going to go to the school park because they all live near each other. They all live in the same neighborhood or whatever. So they decide that after kind of walking around in the mall together, they're going to go to the playground, park, whatever you want to call it. And most of the time, it was pretty much abandoned, and they especially knew a spot in it that, like, nobody knew about and nobody went to. So they all went up there, walked over there, and that's when one of the kids... There was, like, 5 guys, 5 girls, pretty even gender split. And that's when one of them says, we should play Truth or Dare. So a little bit of context. One of the girls in this group, in SpongeBob's group, he had a crush on. He'd always kind of had a crush on her for a while. However, since, they were friendly enough, he didn't want to do anything or make any moves that could potentially mess up the dynamic of the group because he didn't want to be that guy who ruined something just because, he liked a girl. But anyways, he was very open for Truth or Dare or whatever. So they sat around in a circle, and there were some very mundane Truth or Dares. Like there was walk out to the woods and go climb that tree. Okay. Tell me about the first girl you kissed. Okay. And eventually it got more and more interesting, such as like take off your shirt, run around the forest and scream like something ridiculous, right? But it got the most interesting when someone dared SpongeBob. I know you're probably thinking SpongeBob SquarePants right now. It's just a name, guys. Someone dared SpongeBob to kiss his crush. I think this guy kind of knew how SpongeBob felt about this girl because I bet this guy was a bit more aware of his surroundings, and he observed how SpongeBob would look at her in a certain way, and there's little details and little hints that you can pick up on if you're really paying attention. So anyways, right, when SpongeBob hears this, like, he goes red and he starts to, like, blush a little bit. He starts to get a little bit nervous. But the thing that was really unfortunate is the way that this girl reacted. Unfortunately, right? This girl is like, ew, not SpongeBob. Bleh. Dude, you're going to make me sick. Oh, man, it's so tough for SpongeBob, right? And SpongeBob is in a very awkward situation. Because low-key, he was going to go for it because he's like, oh, it's just the rules of the game, guys. Like, we're just doing the rules of the game right now. But no, right? It was very much like, she's like, oh, great. And the thing is, too, this girl wouldn't let it go. She must have thought it was, like, funny or something, because she kept on going on about, like, oh, man, you'd really make SpongeBob kiss me? You're the worst, Jeremy, or whoever the guy's name was. It turns out, like, because SpongeBob, this happened, like, a little while ago. It turns out that this girl actually had a thing for Jeremy, the guy who asked SpongeBob to kiss her. So I feel as if she was, one, kind of joking, try to have, like, a funny moment for the group, but also trying to show to Jeremy, like, no, Jeremy, I wouldn't kiss him. I only want to kiss you. Something like that. Yeah, it's fair enough to say that SpongeBob's feelings were pretty hurt after this moment, which I honestly cannot blame him. But also, SpongeBob got over this girl pretty quickly after this moment, and he actually ended up getting a girlfriend with someone who was not repulsed by the sight of him, sorry to say. And life was pretty good after that. Their big friend group of the 5 guys and the 5 girls did stick together, though. We're going to call the subscriber who submitted the second story Patrick. By the way, you can submit these stories to my Instagram or Twitter or whatever you want to. It's in the description. So Patrick, he was at a house with a bunch of his friends. Basically, this girl, her parents were gone for the weekend, or they were gone for the night or something. They were gone for a brief period of time. So she invited all of her friends over, not to their knowledge. And they were all sitting around, and it was a bunch of guys and it was a bunch of girls. And they got bored, so they decided to play Truth or Dare. And they were going around, and the dares were pretty extreme. It was like lick the inside of the toilet seat, call up the person you have a crush on and let them know, like the really crazy stuff. But that's when they got it almost to the next level of insane Truth or Dares. Because one person said, okay, I dare you. And he looks at the subscriber who we're calling Patrick. Patrick, I dare you to order a Grubhub, have it come here, or Uber Eats or whatever, right? Have a ride service that can bring you food. Bring it here, like order food, I'll pay for it, but you need to pick it up completely naked. You need to show up at the door with nothing on. And Patrick's like, oh my God. But look, Patrick's definitely the guy to stand up and take up the dare that's given to him, right? He's not going to let it slip to the side. So sure enough, Patrick stripped down completely naked, called up the Uber Eats, and within 15 minutes, actually, it was 20 minutes away, but he got the doorbell rung at 10 minutes. So he's like, oh, okay. And everyone's like, your Uber Eats is here. Your Uber Eats is here, which was a little strange to him because he's like, oh, they're going to be 10 minutes early. Like, okay, that's fine with me, I guess. He gets up. He walks over to the door, butt naked, right? And let's just say that he should have paid attention to the Uber Eats app and not the doorbell. And I think, like, look, Uber Eats can be early sometimes. It can be late sometimes. It's normally not 10 minutes early. Like, maybe. But most of the time, it's probably not 10 minutes early. Maybe have someone who isn't butt naked go up to the door and just check out the window, maybe. Or go through the peephole just to make sure that it is the Uber Eats driver. Because a little spoiler alert, it was not the Uber Eats driver. So Patrick went up to the door and opened it halfway so that only like his bare chest or whatever would be visible. That was the whole thing. It was supposed to be Uber Eats driver goes to the door. Patrick like signs the pad or whatever, like only halfway showing himself. He wasn't going to completely expose himself, so that might be illegal or something like that. But that was supposed to be the funny prank. He opens the door with this kind of smile on his face because he wanted to see the reaction of the Uber Eats driver. And instead of the Uber Eats driver, it is the girl's dad. Yeah, the girl who wasn't even supposed to be having anyone over. Her dad must have came back a little bit early and wanted just to say hi. Maybe he forgot something. Maybe he forgot his wallet. Maybe he forgot his phone charger. Who knows? But either way, he opens the door. And instead of seeing, his lovely daughter, who could do nothing wrong, waiting for her father to return, he just sees some random guy who's completely naked open the door. So after about legitimately 25 seconds of the father just staring blankly and Patrick realizing what is happening, the father goes on a tirade. He legitimately chases Patrick back into the house. So Patrick is running around completely naked at this point. The father is running after him, chasing after this guy, right? And Patrick's running back in. He grabs his clothes and runs upstairs or whatever. And at this point, the father doesn't chase Patrick all the way upstairs because the father stumbles upon his daughter and a bunch of guys and girls sitting in the living room in a circle. Like, some of them have marker all over their face because from previous dares or whatever. And remember, he told his daughter she couldn't even have a friend over, let alone guys over, let alone have one of the guys in his house who he doesn't know, completely naked, answering the door. So yeah, he was pretty mad. He was yelling, he was screaming, all the kids were getting up and running out. And Patrick got his clothes on and ran down, and that's when he looked behind him because the dad is like, you were the one who answered the door, right? And Patrick just looks at him and bolts. And he could feel the dad was running behind him, almost catching up speed or whatever. But once Patrick went through the door, he looked behind him, and sure enough, the dad stopped at the door, closed the door, and then presumably turned around to chew out his daughter for the next 2 hours. So about a week later, Patrick was able to see the daughter that invited him over to the house. And she basically said, yeah, I am grounded from seeing anyone indefinitely, according to my father. I'm banned from having friends. He'll get over it soon, but wow, I'm in deep trouble. We're going to call the subscriber who submitted the next story Squidward. So anyway, Squidward was sitting in the back of the class, and don't remember, this is just a name I'm giving. It's not actual Squidward. But Squidward sitting in the back of the class. And anyways, what he's doing back in the class is he's sitting with his friends, and his friends and him, they have a little competition type thing, a little type of truth or dare, basically making the dares more and more each time. So Squidward and his boys are sitting in the back of the class. One of the dares is to tap someone on the shoulder and pretend like it wasn't them, which they did, and the guy's like, bro, I know it's you. Another one was to shoot a paper spitball at someone. Another one was to walk up to the front of the class and on purpose, but make it look like an accident, trip and spill a bunch of papers everywhere, which is pretty funny or whatever. But the next dare was giving to Squidward. Basically, one of the kids had taken a salt packet from the dining room, right? And the idea was go up to the front desk or where the teacher sits, and when they're not looking, slip this packet of salt into their coffee, and they'll have a funny reaction when they take a sip. Which is mean to do your teachers. Disclaimer, please do not do this. I hope that's apparent, but just in case it's not. Yeah, but anyways, Squidward was given that, given the salt packet. He's like, boys, I got you, no problem with it. So he goes up to the front of the class, and he's like, hey, teacher, can you look into this for me? And he opens up his, note. He's like, can you look over this really quick? And the teacher's like, you should be doing this yourself, but fine, I'll help you out. So the teacher's looking through, takes out a red pen. It's like, okay, so you're going to want to look here, and you're going to want to take a look over here. And sure enough, while the teacher's doing this, Squidward is very much, as discreetly as possible, ripping open the salt packet and dumping the whole thing into the teacher's coffee cup, right? And Squidward is only paying attention to where the teacher's attention is. He's not paying attention to where the rest of the class's attention is, which is going to be very important in a second. So sure enough, right, Squidward gets the entire salt packet in, puts the salt packet into his pocket. Teacher didn't see a thing. So Squidward's like, okay, as the teacher's giving him feedback on his project, he's like, okay, thank you, great. So the teacher's like, all right, well, go back and make those changes. Teacher goes over, takes a sip of his coffee, and legitimately spits it out. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment dare down below. That'd be the secret word of the day. Leave a like on the video to claim your free nothing. Subscribe if you're new, and let's get back to it. Anyways, though, so yeah, not Squidward. The teacher spits out their coffee. They're like, oh, God, what is in this? And Squidward and his boys thought that he got away with it because the teacher didn't see anything. The teacher didn't suspect anything besides that someone did something, you know what I mean? And yeah, sure enough, Squidward thought he got away with it, but that was not the case because a kid at the front of the class, a kid who always sat at the front of the class, and I have nothing against you for being studious. In fact, I should be a little more studious at times. But it was just that kid who was like the teacher's pet, which once again, there is nothing wrong with being good in your class. However, some people just act a certain way, and you know what I'm talking about. He's like, teacher, teacher, teacher. He like raises his hand, and Squidward is looking up there. He's like, no way this kid's about to snitch on me. No shot. The teacher's like, yes, Jeremy. And the kid's like, teacher, I know what happened to your coffee. And at this point, Squidward's like, don't do it, dude. Don't do it. Don't you dare do it. And the kid's like, I saw Squidward put a packet of salt into your coffee when you weren't looking. Squidward did it. And the teacher's like, Squidward, is this true? And Squidward's like, the teacher, and the kid's like, yes, teacher, I saw it. Like, check his pockets right now. He's a salt packet in there. And Squidward very quickly is like trying to like reach into his pocket. The teacher power walks over to him, reaches in his pocket, pulls out a salt packet and says, you're coming with me. Brings him up to the front office. Basically, Squidward gets detention for a week. All because the kid at the front of the class snitched on him. He was doing a good job too, man. Squidward almost had a successful prank, but no. We're going to call the next subscriber who submitted a story Mr. Krabs. So Mr. Krabs was with his friends, and they decided to do a little truth or dare or whatever. And one of Mr. Krabs' friends basically dared him to inhale some of this very special grass. I think you guys know what I'm alluding to. I just can't say certain words because YouTube will be big mad sometimes. But they basically dared him to smoke a little bit of a very special grass clipping, right? Very special. Mr. Krabs had no experience doing this. He was a little bit nervous, but he was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, no problem. Goes into it, takes a massive rip of the grass, coughs it all up, right? But still inhales it correctly. He's like, I don't feel anything, bro. Like, that's crazy. And Mr. Krabs is like, all right, give me a harder dare. Give me a harder dare. And they're like, all right, man, just give it a sec. Just give it a sec. Sure enough, Mr. Krabs was not immune to the effects of said grass. He was not immune, right? Not immune. And let's just say that Mr. Krabs had quite the experience. He was sitting in the circle, and he looks up, and the guy's like, dude, are you okay? And Mr. Krabs is like, yeah, what? They're like, we've been trying to talk to you for like the last 5 minutes. He's like, what? Mr. Krabs was deep in thought about the most random, unnecessary stuff ever. And he's just like, huh? And Mr. Krabs says something that he thinks makes a lot of sense, but his friends are like, dude, I have no idea what you just said. And that's when Mr. Krabs' memory kind of like goes a little hazy, right? He wakes up on his roof in nothing but his underwear. So Mr. Krabs is so disoriented at this point. He's like, last thing I remember, I was with my friends, we were playing Truth or Dare, and oh. And that's when Mr. Krabs remembers, oh yeah, I had a little smoke at the adult rat. Okay. So he's like, okay, where are my surroundings? Because I don't know about you, but I know definitely if I woke up on the ceiling and nothing, or not the ceiling, if I woke up on the ceiling, if I woke up on the roof and nothing but my underpants, I would also be a little bit disoriented. I think that is fair to say. And yeah, so sure enough, Mr. Krabs has no idea how he got up there and also realizes that now he has to go back downstairs. He at least needs to find a way to get back down into his room. He has no idea how he got up here, but look, at the end of the day, Mr. Krabs is on the roof in his underpants at like 2 p.m. and he needs to get downstairs. He doesn't want his parents to totally know. And he doesn't even know if his friends are still here, man. Like, for all he knows, his friends are just completely gone. Which, spoiler, they are. Because he eventually figures out his friends have left by this point. So he starts to climb down the roof. And thankfully, like, the roof is right next to a tree. Very similar to, like, in The Simpsons, if you ever saw their house layout or whatever. So he jumps onto the tree, or takes a little leap, or crawls over, right? And goes down the tree in his underpants at 2 p.m, which is just not an ideal situation. That is just not really the situation you get yourself when you've peaked in life. But he walks into the house. He tries to walk into the house. And the front door is locked. The front door is never locked. His parents are home. He has no idea why they locked it. But sometimes they will just randomly lock it. So he's like, oh my God, I need to ring the doorbell. So he rings the doorbell and he waits there. And his parents open it up. And his dad is just looking at him. And he's standing there in his underpants with like frizzed up hair, looking like a wreck, right? His dad does not ask him any questions. He says, oh, didn't know you're out here. Come on in. I think his dad just realized that maybe it's better if I just don't know. Maybe it's better if I just don't ask. So yeah, sure enough, Mr. Krabs goes up into his room, gets his clothes on, texts up his friends being like, where are you? And he said, hey man, like our parents were supposed to come pick us up at like 12. We don't even know where you were, bro. Yeah. And they explained that he kind of just disappeared after a certain point. So they all went to bed. And Mr. Krabs texts them saying, yeah, so I just woke up on my roof in my underpants with no other clothes on at 2 p.m.
Click on the
Yeah.
video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.